Hi everybody, my name's Nick Morgan. I'm a recovering drug addict, alcoholic. My clean date is June 2nd, 2015, so I'm a little bit shy of coming up on 2 years clean and sober from drugs and alcohol. I'm kind of just making this video to, reach out further. I've seen on my Facebook a lot lately. There's a lot of people dying of this disease of addiction. People I know, people I don't know. Regardless, it's an epidemic and it's getting real bad. I just want to start off by saying that anybody that thinks that they can't recover from this, you're telling yourself a lie. I'm someone that used drugs and alcohol for 10 years. It really ruined my life. I came from absolutely nothing. I was born, let's just start here. I was born into a great family. I was adopted, had a great family, great childhood. Parents got divorced when I was in 3rd grade. I can only use that as an excuse, to why I put drugs and alcohol in my body, because I didn't like the emotions or whatever it is. The reality of it is that's just an excuse. I got drunk and high because I like to get drunk and high, because I'm an addict. It's not because of anything that happened in my childhood. It's not because my biological family had the same disease. It has nothing to do with that. So what, I up until I was about 16 years old, just typical, I smoke weed with the cool kids, drink alcohol, party on the weekends, skip school, and I obviously didn't see that it was an issue at that point. When I turned 17, I started traveling, going to music festivals. It was fun, you know what I mean? I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that every day that I was out there drinking and drugging was just so horrible, because it wasn't. You know what I mean? Like, the reality of it is, I had a blast. I think everybody can relate that at first, it's all fun. You know what I mean? We just want to have a good time. We want to be happy. And, like I said, I went, I traveled the country. I went to a lot of different music festivals, and I had a blast. I had a good time. But then life shows up. You get older and you're supposed to, learn how to have a job. I attempted to be in a relationship. I was in a toxic relationship for almost 5 years. And when I started feeling those feelings of, like shame and guilt, because I was getting drunk and high and cheating on my girlfriend, and I was, stealing from people because I ran out of money. This is when life shows up. I run out of money and I can't get high and I don't want to be sick. I would steal from her. I would steal from my family. You know what I mean? Like, I've robbed people. Things that, today, I would never do. And that's all the disease of addiction. I didn't know how to control it. Let's see. And then, it came to me trying to get help, right? My best friend passed away on the 4th of July of 2014. That was one of the hardest things I ever had to go through. He died of a heroin overdose. It was my best friend, my ride or die. We lived together, grew up together since diapers, the closest person to me besides my own brother, and he passed away. And this is the insanity of addiction, is when he passes away, what do? Never used a needle in my life. He passes away, I go start putting a needle in my arm. And that's the insanity of it. Who does that? Addicts do that. I'm an addict. It got to a point to where I was so bad that my girlfriend left me. My family didn't want to talk to me. I ended up in a motel room by myself. smoking crack, shooting heroin, doing meth occasionally, just drinking. And, because I didn't want to feel, you know what I mean? I didn't want to feel that pain of my best friend being gone and nobody wanting to be around me, and I was lonely. You know what I mean? And at that point, drugs became my best friend. Like time went by and I just got worse and worse, and my family reached out to me and said, you need to get some help. My friends are telling me you need to get some help. And these are friends that are using, that are telling me I need to get help. That's how bad I was. And at this point I have nothing. You know what I mean? I have like maybe a couple pairs of clothes, one pair of shoes. I'm living in a motel room that I'm not even paying for. A good friend of mine actually reached out and got me a motel room in this beat down motel. And that's one thing you can never forget, is like those really, really bad times where like I didn't want to kill myself, but I didn't want to live. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have the balls to actually, off myself, but I did not want to live anymore. I did not want to feel. And that's one of the most painful things to go through. It's just that feeling of existing and not being anybody and not wanting to talk to anybody because of the shame and the guilt. And, it came to a point to where, I made a decision to go to rehab because everybody wanted me to get clean. I didn't want to get clean. I didn't want to do it for myself. Like I did it for everybody else. You know what I mean? I did it to show like mom and dad and, my best friend that passed away, his mom. Like I just wanted to show them like, look, I can get clean. You know what I mean? I wanted to make them happy. So I made a decision to come down to South Florida to go to rehab. And like I said, that wasn't for myself. So where did that lead me? I did my 60 days in rehab. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm cured. You know what I mean? Like, it's all over. I'm going to go back to the same bad relationship I was at before, and I'm going to move home and everything's just going to be great. I drank at the airport before I left South Florida. You know what I mean? Like I hadn't done anything. I had done no work. I just wanted to show everybody back home that I could get clean. You know what I mean? I didn't want to do it for myself. So where did that wind me up? I lasted like 2 weeks up there. You know what I mean? And I got in a fight with the girlfriend. Again, emotions, don't want to feel. So I'm back in a motel room doing the same thing I was doing 2 months before that. And it got worse. It was worse. The feeling that time was worse than the times before. And it's not a lie when they say it gets worse every time you go back out there. It got to a point to where like the only way out I knew was because the only way that I knew out was to go back down to South Florida, because I knew I stayed clean for a significant amount of time down there because I was institutionalized. So it got to a point to where I called again and I was like, you know what, I'm going to try it this time and I'm going to do it for me. So I came back down to South Florida. I went through the treatment. Again, I felt great, but I knew it wasn't a good idea for me to go back home. I had the opportunity to stay down here and, it's a step down program where they, you do your detox, inpatient, then you do, intensive outpatient, and they show you how to live again. You know what I mean? Like they show you how to get a job. You know what I mean? You stay in the sober home and you click with the guys in there and like you stick with the people that are doing the damn thing. But one thing I didn't do was they suggested me to go to either AA or NA meetings, get a sponsor, work steps. I don't need that stuff. That's what I thought. All I needed to do was stay clean and not go back to Illinois. That's all I needed to do. And at this point, I don't even think I was convinced that I was an addict. Like you go to meetings or you go around people and they're like, their bottom was this bad. Well, mine wasn't as bad as theirs, so I'm not as bad as them. You know what I mean? I didn't do what they did to get the next one, so I'm not as bad. Those are all the things I used to judge people. I used to judge people that would come in meetings, you know what I mean? And say stuff like, oh, I'm not as bad as him. But ultimately, what the reality of it is we all shared the same feeling inside of feeling like nothing, the guilt, the shame, the like spiritually bankrupt, like having absolutely nothing left in you. You know what I mean? Like being completely beaten and broken. We all were there. It doesn't matter what got us there, but we've all been there. Um, and, you know, I didn't take the suggestions and going to meetings and stuff. So where did that wind me up? Relapsing again. Relapse is a big part of my story. So I relapsed again. The best thing my family ever did was cut me off. Because I used to be down here and I'd be like, Mom, can you Western Union me? Can you send me money? Like, you know, and it got to a point to where, like, she started going to Al-Anon, and she's, you know, which is great. You know, if there's any of the family members out there, I do suggest you consider going to Al-Anon. It helped my mom a lot. You know, she stopped enabling me, man, and that's what I needed. Of course, I hated her for it at first, but ultimately now I see the bigger picture. You know, so they stopped enabling me. So I was down here homeless, you know, with nothing. Again, it got worse. I didn't even have the motel room to go back to. I was homeless, you know, and I was finally beaten and broken so much that I tried it one more time. You know what I mean? And I had that moment of clarity and that gift of desperation where I'm like, God, I want to do this. You know, I never really acknowledged God. I don't know if anybody can relate to where you're about to overdose and you're like, God, please don't let me die. Or the cops get behind you. God, you know, God, please don't let me go to jail. Like, everybody wants to acknowledge him then, you know. But whenever it's a life and death situation, you're in the depths of addiction. Nobody wants to be like, God, get me out of this. Well, I took that initiative and I said that, you know. And I can't say that, like, any certain thing happened, but I was done. You know what I mean? It's not a certain situation that happened, but I was completely done. You know, I was done running. I was tired. You know what I mean? And I wanted to be something in life. And I saw all these people around me, you know, and the recovery community is so big down here that I saw all these people around me, like, succeeding and, like, you know, conquering this disease, man, and, like, becoming something in life. And I wanted that. So I made the decision to make the call, and I went to detox. That was the most brutal detox. I think God put me in that certain detox for a reason, because they didn't give me really any meds. And I had to feel that. I had to feel the physical freaking withdrawals, man, and it was bad. It was bad. But I needed that, and I'll never forget that. So I went to detox, went to the treatment, you know what I mean? I just did what these people told me to do. You know what I mean? Anybody that was clean at that point, that had more clean time than me, knew more than I did, because I didn't know shit about staying clean. Excuse my language. I didn't know anything about staying clean. So I took the suggestions that people gave me, man, and it was like, you know, why don't you go to detox? Why don't you go to treatment? You know what I mean? Like, stick with it, you know, like, do the step down program where you go to the sober living house and you hang out with the guys that are doing the right thing, and you go to the meetings, you know what I mean? You go to the meetings, you do that 90 meetings in 90 days, like, that commitment. I made that commitment. I did like 120 meetings in 90 days because, like, you know, like, at that point, I was so terrified to go back out and lose what I had worked for, and the feeling that I felt of just being clean is just insane, man. Like, you know, I took this suggestion, like, I got the sponsor. My sponsor was like, hey, man, how about we work steps? These are the steps that changed my freaking life, man. They can change yours, too. You know what I mean? So I took that suggestion, and I started putting pen to paper and doing what my sponsor told me, and got involved with Narcotics Anonymous. I'm probably breaking one of the traditions here by, you know, talking about it over social media, but it really changed my life. You know what I mean? Ultimately, like, treatment's good, you know, getting the clinical side of it, that's great and everything, but Narcotics Anonymous changed my life. I won't touch on it too much because I don't want to break the traditions, but, you know, I took those suggestions that they gave me. You know, there's just something about putting pen to paper and being involved in a fellowship that, like, changes your life. You know, I went through a lot. I can't even really explain, like, how I felt through those bad times. But, like, where I'm at today is I came to South Florida with absolutely nothing. I had $6 in my pocket, one pair of shoes, and a trash bag full of clothes. I had absolutely nothing. I still have those shoes because I don't want to forget about the holes in the bottom of them. You know, and today, you know, I get to work in the field of treatment. I get to help people, genuinely help people, you know, get into treatment and give them suggestions, and they look up to me, you know, and want to follow my path because, like, I've been through the same thing that they've been through. And I think that's the biggest mistake that some addicts make is they don't reach out. They don't ask for help. It takes a real man to reach out for help. You know, people think like, oh man, you know, I can do this. I'm a man. Like I can do this on my own. We can't do it on our own. We cannot do it on our own. You have to reach out, man. And this is kind of like while I'm making this video is like I want people to reach out. Like I want people to like hear my story and hear how I've conquered addiction and where I'm at today. You know, I started with, you know, when I got out of treatment, it's just kind of like they say, it's kind of it's kind of learning how to ride a bike again. I took, you know, I took the bus to and from work. I was working at a Little Caesars down here for $8.10 an hour in early recovery. I did that for a while. You know, I got another job at a hot dog shop. I was working there for, you know, it went up to $9 an hour, baby steps. You know, eventually got a scooter. I didn't have a car. I got a scooter first. You know, and I rode the shit out of that thing. That's the best $500 I ever spent in my life. You know, I got a scooter and I was going to work at the hot dog shop and I was going to my meetings and I was meeting with my sponsor, you know, and stayed focused. You know what I mean? And then I got to $9 an hour at the hot dog shop. Next thing you know, I get a raise. I'm a manager there. Holy shit, I can do things because I'm clean and I have a clear head and I can actually see like, you know, what I'm good at in life. You know what I mean? And I succeeded there. I was a manager. And, you know, it went to $10 an hour. And then I got done, you know, working there and I got some clean time together. I finally put together a year and then somebody asked me if I wanted to, you know, well, you know, at like 3 months while I was working at the hot dog shop, I started managing halfway houses. So, you know, like I was there to support guys and make sure that people are following the rules in the halfway house. Like who would ask an addict like me to do something like that? I would have never thought that, you know, but I got that opportunity. I did that and I worked at the hot dog shop and I had my sponsor and I went to my meetings and then, you know, I got a year clean and somebody asked me like, hey man, I think you should work in treatment. I think you should be a behavioral health technician at a treatment center. So I'm like, well, you know, that's awesome, man. So, you know, I start getting paid $12 an hour, you know what I mean? And that's huge in early recovery. If you become, you know, from coming from absolutely nothing to somebody asking you to be there for other addicts and be there to support them and, you know, and make decent money, man. And it's good, dude. Like I said, like coming from absolutely nothing. And then, and now I'm, you know, I went from that to being a housing director, you know, which is, that's huge. I don't know if anybody's familiar with treatment, like that's huge. I was a housing director at a treatment center and now I actually do outreach coordinating, you know what I mean? It's I get to help people on a daily basis, you know what I mean? Like I have sponsees, I have a sponsor, I have a good job, I just got a car, you know, 6-7 months ago. A 2013 car at that. Like I never had a car over a 2000. You know what I mean? Because I didn't have any money. All my money was being ingested into my veins, you know, and you know, like I got my car and I just got my own apartment with my roommate and, you know, he's got 3 years, I'm coming up on 2 years, you know what I mean? And life's great, man. Like life is great. And I just, that's really the message that I want to get out there is that we do recover. You know what I mean? Like we can conquer this disease. It's hard, man. Nobody said it was going to be easy, but like I said, the biggest mistake people make is not reaching out, is not, you know, like, is not taking the time to say, like, I need help. You know what I mean? Because, like, people like me, you guys see it on my Facebook all the time. I tell you, like, reach out. Like, I'm here to talk to you. I'm here to guide you. Like, not only does it help you, but, like, and I don't want to quote NA again, but our primary purpose is to carry the message to the addict who's still suffering. So not only does it help you, but it helps me. It helps me by carrying the message. And, you know, that's really what I want to get out there is that, like, I am honestly living a life beyond my wildest dreams today. And anybody that knows me and knew that I had nothing, you know what I mean, that I am somebody today. Like, I am a functional, productive member of society. And that's all because I took the suggestions, you know what I mean? And that's all because I have God in my life. You know, like I make sure that I wake up and pray to God that I have another day clean and pray for somebody other than myself. You know, this program and, these people, like my fellowship has like brought me so much closer to God that, you know, it's emotional sometimes. Some of the things that happen to me in life today that are like good are just so emotional that it's amazing. It's a good emotion, you know what I mean? And like I said, man, like life's not all rainbows, you know what I mean? It's not all good. Like I go through things, like people die, you know what I mean? Like some of your friends will relapse, you know, like a lot of people are gonna die before, you know, somebody recovers, but it doesn't have to be like that, and that's why I want to make a difference. And you know, like it gets tough sometimes, man. It really does get tough, but I know that I don't have to use no matter what. I don't have to pick up a drug. You know, I have the tools that I know to use is to like call your boys, call your sponsor, go to a meeting, you know what I mean? Like reach out before you pick up a drug, because if it's anything like it is down here, man, like you got a really, really high chance of dying, you know? So with that, like I said, man, I'm an addict in recovery and my name's Nick Morgan.